Hello, this video is for IXL activity 8.V.1 and this activity is titled Write Variable Expressions, and we're only using one operation in this one. The 3-character code for IXL on this one is Papa Echo Zulu, PEZ. And here I've included a table at the beginning here, showing us some common words and phrases that indicate what operation might need to be used. And the 4 operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And in each column of this table, we see listed words that are often used to indicate these 4 different operations. Such as addition, plus, the sum of, increase by, total, more than, and added to. Subtraction, minus, or the difference of, decreased by, fewer than, less than, or subtracted from. The thing about subtraction is you got to be careful which order you put the numbers in, because 5 minus 4 is different than 4 minus 5. And multiplication, we might say times, or the product of, multiplied by, or we could use the word of. And then finally division, phrases like divided by, divided into, or the quotient of. Quotients are involved in division. So if you see that word quotient, it means division. So on our first one here, it says write an expression. So we're not going to have equal signs. Remember, expressions only have numbers, letters, and operation signs. So no equal sign in there, right? So we're going to write an expression for the operation described below. And this says add Q to 6. So we're starting with 6, and we're going to add Q to it. So we're going to start with 6, and add means addition, and we're going to add Q to it. So you type in 6 plus Q and hit enter. On the next one, real quick, you might want to pause the video for a second and either jot this table down in a notebook possibly, or like many students do, you can break out your phone and take a quick picture of it, and then that way you always have this table to refer to as a guide for that. So on the next one, write an expression for the operation described below. Divide V by 3. So V is what's getting divided. So if we wrote this using the standard division sign, we'd say V divided by 3. But we know that if we write division, we could also write it as a fraction and say V, it looks like a Y, don't it? V divided by 3. Now, on your computer there, you could type in V/3, and I'm pretty sure IXL accepted that way, but if I recall in this activity, there's buttons underneath the answer here, and one of those buttons looks something like this here. And I have one box here with a division bar and then another box here. And if you go ahead and click that button, then it'll put that into the answer here. It'll show up with a box here and a line and another box here. And then in this box here, you just type in the letter V, and then in the lower box, you're going to put in your number 3. Okay, so we're looking at V divided by 3, or V over 3 is V divided by 3. Every fraction is a division problem. You'll hear me say that a lot. So here on the next one, we're going to multiply 2 by S. Now, multiplication, we could say 2 times S, right? Or we could also say S times 2. I guess I better put the loop on there so S doesn't look like a 5, right? There, S doesn't look like a 5, hopefully. But due to the fact that S is a variable, we could simply write this as 2S, and we should realize that this means 2 times S, or 2 multiplied by S. So I'm going to type in a 2, type in an S, and hit enter. 2S is the answer. This one here, subtraction. Wow, this is where we have to be careful not to switch them around, because Q minus P is different than P minus Q on this one. So write expression for the operation below. Subtract Q from P. So if I said subtract 5 from 10, right? If I said subtract 5 from 10, you'd say, oh, the answer is 5. Well, in order to get that, we would have to do 10 minus 5. This is what we're starting with. This is what we're taking away. So subtract Q from P. Well, P is what we're starting with, and we're taking Q away. If we did it the other way around and had Q minus P, it would be incorrect. So be sure that you, on the subtraction, pay close attention to which one comes first. On the next one, 8 increased by V. Well, increased by means we're adding something to it, right? So what are we starting with? We're starting with 8. Increase means to add, addition. And what are we adding? We're adding V, so 8 plus V. Now you could put V plus 8, and I believe that it would still give you the correct answer. On the next one, raise A to the 9th power. Okay, this is one that if you're not familiar with exponents, you might be saying, what do you mean raise? Because if I go back to that first slide there, there's nothing here that says raising something to a power, right? So what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with exponents. So whenever we take a number like 3 and raise it to the power of 2, in this case 3 is the base, this here is the power. That's actually the exponent. I always get these. That's the exponent. And together a base. There we go. Try to make a bracket. Together, these two make a power. Okay. So 3 is the base, and the little vocabulary in here. So we have a base to an exponent. Together we call those a power. In this case, we take the base and we multiply it times itself the same number of times that the exponent is. So we're going to take A, which is the base. Here we took 3 and raised it to the 2nd power. So we're going to take A and raise it to the 9th power. Now, for this one here, there is a button on below the answer box here that looks like this. It has a box here, and then it has a box up here. So you want to type in the A first, then hit this button, and whenever you do, there'll be a little box that will show up right here for you to put your answer in. Okay, so that's how we kind of plug that in there. So type in whatever the base is, in this case A, hit that button, then that'll give you your box to put whatever power you need to raise it to, whatever that exponent number needs to be. So we raised A to the 9th power. So here we need to raise W to the 8th power. So we type in W, that's the base. We push that little button down here, our exponent button, and then that'll give us a box right here. And then we would type 8 into that box here. So W to the 8th is how we could read that. 4 decreased by V. Well, decreased by, we're taking something away, and we know that take away is subtraction. So we know it's going to be subtraction. What are we starting with, and what's being taken away? Well, 4 decreased by V. Well, 4 is what we're starting with, and we're going to take V away from it. So it's going to be 4 minus V. Here we have S times T. Well, we know that times means to multiply, right? And we could put S times T. And on your or on IXL, sometimes they have a button down here that's got a dot on it for your multiplication sign. That might be there on this activity, but we really don't need that dot because since they're both variables, we just put ST and we realize that this means S times T. There's no operation sign between the two of them, so we know it's supposed to be multiplication, so we can put ST for our answer. So just type in ST and hit enter. This one here is S minus 5, so it's subtraction, right? Minus. And we got to figure out what are we starting with and what are we taking away. So S minus 5. Well, if we said 10 minus 5, use an example, 10 minus 5. So we know, oh, that would be 10 minus 5. So we're going to put S minus 5. And I'm working real hard here to make my S's and my 5's not look the same. So that's S minus 5. Here I have subtract Z from 9. So subtraction. The trick here is to make sure that we don't get them mixed around. So the question is, what are we starting with? Well, subtract Z from 9. So it sounds like we're starting off with 9. Then we're going to subtract what we're taking away. So cross that over so he knows it's z, not a 2. And so 9 minus z. That would be subtracting z from 9. And here we have the quotient. So quotient, if you look back on that, if you wrote down that table that was at the beginning, or if you took a picture of it with your phone, you'll see the quotient refers to division. So the quotient of v and 2, and whenever we read this one in this order, whatever they tell us first is the numerator, and whatever they tell us second is the denominator. This number at the top here, this is the numerator, and the bottom number, we refer to this as the denominator. Denominator. Math teachers are sometimes not all that good at being spellers. So the top number is the numerator, second number at the bottom here, that's the denominator. And every fraction is a division problem, so v over 2 is the same as v divided by 2. And again, with this activity, I believe that there should be a fraction button there. So click that little button there, and then it'll put a box where you put in the v, and it'll put in a box where you put in the 2, so v over 2. The product of 9 and v, in this case, product refers to multiplication, so we could do 9 times v, or again, we could just simply say 9v. No operation sign, so we know it's multiplication, so it's 9v. Here we have the sum of r and q. Sum means to add, so we're just going to do r plus q. Let's see, I almost said the quotient of, because I've seen that word divide. So it already tells us it's division, q divided by 4. So that'd be q divided by 4. We know that equals q over 4. So hit that little fraction button down there and get your 2 boxes in there and fill those boxes in. And the first one up top for the numerator, we're going to put q, and for the denominator, we're going to put 4. Last 2 problems here, 6 more than d. So I'll start with d, and I'm going to add 6 to it. That would be 6 more than d, so d plus 6. And here I have subtract q from p. Again, the subtraction ones, you have to be careful. What are you starting with, and what are you taking away? So subtract q from p. It looks like I'm starting with p, and I'm going to take away q. So p minus q. So those are all my examples for IXL 8.V.1, titled Write Variable Expressions Using One Operation. Again, pay close attention to the words on this table here. They'll really help you out. Good luck here on your activity.